Welcome to Executives at the Edge, the podcast from Amplify. Each episode features insights from the top network, cloud, and technology executives, giving you key takeaways to help you grow your revenue and bring solutions to market faster. I'm your host, Pascal Menezes. Join me as we explore thought-provoking perspectives from the leaders and changemakers propelling the AI-powered digital economy forward. I'm so super excited to have Scott Lawrence. He's the Chief Product Officer from Verizon Business. And we're here in Lisbon, and it's been an incredible event. And Scott's been participating in the board and also participating as speaker. And Scott, we're going to cover today, I believe, a lot about what's happening with AI, how the infrastructure players have a huge role in AI, how they have to come together to build an on-demand supply chain, how APIs play a critical role. So with that, Scott, can you please tell us, for our listeners, a little bit about yourself? And of course, everybody knows Verizon, but a little more about Verizon Business.
Absolutely. So first, Pascal, thank you so much for inviting me to sit down with you at this podcast and for joining Amplify here at the G&E conference in Lisbon, Portugal. It's been a fantastic week. A lot of innovative sessions that have been on stage earlier today, and a lot of thought leadership delivered by Amplify. So truly appreciate that. So my name is Scott Lawrence. I have the privilege of leading our product organization for Verizon Business. Verizon Business is part of the overall Verizon business unit. There's really two business units. One is our consumer business, which is about $100 billion per annum business, and then Verizon Business, which is $30 billion, supporting our global enterprise, our public sector, so state, local, education, and federal, our business markets, which is our small and medium business segment in the US, as well as our global wholesale.
Very impressive. And you run that portfolio as a Chief Product Officer.
I do. So I moved into the Chief Product Officer role in 2024, having had a number of roles within Verizon over my tenure, including running our international operations here in London. It's great to be back in the EU. It's a place that's very near and dear to my heart, so that was a great opportunity to come join you here in Lisbon. But I've been on the sales side, the strategy side, the operations side, and I think they said, hey, you've raised a lot of concerns and ideas for product. Why don't you go give it a try?
Okay, so they say, okay, you go do it then. Oh, that's awesome. Scott, thank you for joining the board of directors. It's been a real pleasure working with you. It's been fantastic. And recently it was just, you centralized all your APIs as Verizon Business, right? Can you tell us for our listeners a little bit why and why is that so important, your strategy behind it?
Yeah, so one, it's a privilege and an honor to have been nominated onto the board of directors for Amplify. Verizon's been a long-standing member of the Amplify and MEF community for a number of years, and we've implemented quite a bit of the LSO model into our own organization. We can talk about that a little bit later. But I personally, I really believe strongly in the global mission to really create an alliance and bring global networks together and drive service innovation. And that's what Amplify really stands for. And, as I got deeper into the role of participating on the board, it also, brought up for me an ongoing issue that I saw within Verizon. And that is how we managed our API strategy, or lack thereof. Strategy was really siloed. So we had our IT department doing one thing, we had our network organization doing something else, you had different parts of the product organization that was dabbling in APIs, and different standards were being deployed from Chimera to TMF Forum to Amplify. You had Aduna and the partnership or the JV structure that we participate in as well. And then you had parts of this in our consumer business as well. So it was even fractured between business units. So what I've done is really created what I'll call a central strategic control point within Verizon Business. We moved our API strategy out of consumer into our team as well. And this becomes a blueprint for how we want to enable our wholesale, how we want to enable our channel teams, how we want to directly engage with our enterprise and public sector and business market customers, and really gives us a map for our north, south, east, west strategy that we can all anchor around. And what it also allowed us to do was do a little bit of inventory, right, of what we had. And what we found was there was duplication, there was areas of opportunity for us to kind of change the strategy a little bit. So we're in the what I'll call early innings of kind of bringing this all together, but the teams are excited because it gives us an opportunity to be thoughtful about where we want to go, and we have to be able to meet what our customers are asking, and that is to interlock with them digitally in a new way than how we've typically operated with them in the past.
That's very smart, Scott, because I talked to many providers, and like you said, they're all siloed. The IT team normally handles the APIs because it's considered part of the IT team. But I think what you've done is really smart because you've looked at it from a business outcome, which is really important because everything now has to be automated, and now truly it has to be agentic based. And so, when you think about that, that's brilliant because if every of your customers, enterprise or wholesale providers that are buying from you, basically they want to make sure you're automated, and you have to make sure that automation makes sense. So you really enable the team to go figure that out as a top-down view instead of a little, bespoke models. Do this little thing here and a little here and here, and then try to figure out how to unify it. It gets very complex.
Right.
So, how do you? Obviously, AI is talked about everywhere. It's probably since my career, I've never seen it move as fast, and the biggest amount of money being poured into it is insanely crazy. As you know, even the IPO is going to come out here shortly with Anthropic and OpenAI's crazy valuations. What exactly going on in the arms race, and why do you think service providers hold the winning cards?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the nail on the head. Is that we've never seen anything. The adoption of Gen AI. And really since November of 2022, when ChatGPT exploded on the scene, just the adoption of this technology is unprecedented from what we've seen before. And many have called it arm race, and for good reason, right? And I think the one thing about the arms race is there's not a single AI arms race with a single winner. There's multiple races with multiple winners. And as a business, you're only going to win if you're competing in the right race with the right assets. And I think we're at a unique pivot point for service providers because as I look at just take three of the arms races that are happening right now, the race for models, the race for talent, and the race for AI infrastructure. We have an opportunity in AI infrastructure that where service providers are uniquely positioned to take advantage of and to think differently about where we sit in that value chain and how we can, leverage and reimagine our existing networks, but present them in a new way that's based on intent, not just bits and bytes. And I think there's a real opportunity for those service providers that are willing to lean in and lead versus just simply participate or sit on the sidelines.
So does that mean the providers become so critical part of the AI offering that basically the infrastructure has to adapt and be automated and fluid and dynamic and
if you think about
quality and secure?
So what's been fascinating to me is that all of the conversations over the last couple of years have been dominated by large data center builds, massive compute, chipsets, tokens, and power. But the role that the network plays in the distribution of AI workloads at scale has been severely, under-discussed. And you need the network to make all of that happen. Like all of those gigawatt data centers, they don't work unless they're connected to a network. You can't reach all of those end users with the new physical AI ecosystem that's emerging unless you have the network. You can't have agent-to-agent transactions without the network. But it hasn't gotten the visibility because there's an assumption that it's been commoditized over the years and it's just a dumb pipe. But the reality is that by creating a secure, scalable infrastructure to meet those needs, you're actually connecting those users with their AI-enabled endpoints. And that's going to be a really important part as we start seeing the shift happen from large language training models to real-time inferencing, and that's going to drive distributed edge compute. And that edge can be everywhere from device to service provider edge to service provider core to cloud to customer prem, right? And when all's said and done, service providers, we own the physical edge and we're the builders of infrastructure.
I think that you're so spot on. I think you nailed it because there are new assets I've talked about. There are the sensors, they're going to be everywhere. AI, that's going to be tied to AI sensors, I call them. You have AI agents, we talk going to be billions of AI agents doing all kinds of workflow. We have AI factories, now becoming super AI factories. We have grids, which are edges all for inference, as we talked about. All this stuff to be connected, But the question I'm sure listeners are going to say, well, why isn't the internet not good enough? Why do we need a purpose-built AI infrastructure?
Yeah. Well, I think one, as you start looking at it, and I'd kind of equate it, we're meeting the market where it is today. And today, you're still looking at these large language training models, which require very high capacity networking solution. So you're seeing long haul dark fiber, metro dark fiber, optical wave services from 100 gig to 400 gig and beyond that, from a capacity standpoint, there's just not enough. Like, it's becoming a hidden bottleneck. And these data centers are being built in non-traditional tier 1 data center geographies in the US because they're chasing power, right? They're chasing power and water. But they're chasing it in areas that are underserved. So now the network has the potential to become that hidden bottleneck. Where the real shift is going to happen, and McKinsey actually estimates 70% of all workloads will be real-time inferencing by 2030. And even, we talked about this before, Jensen Huang at his keynote at GTC NVIDIA said the inferencing inflection point has arrived, right? And when inferencing happens, you're going to have distributed inferencing closer to the edge, and you're going to have to connect to people in a different way. And that's where you're seeing tokens that are dominating, the news now, because token usage is just exploding. And each token, can be up to 10 megabits or higher, and that's a lot of traffic. So managing based on intent and outcomes and directing that traffic and supporting not only traditional application workloads that'll still be here for some time, but also where we're going with agentic agent, it requires a fundamentally different network than just providing sheer bandwidth. And I think that's where the opportunity comes in for us to really think differently about what are those new, what I'll call network currencies that are starting to emerge, right? So you're seeing things like network slicing and greater uplink to support the new, physical AI device ecosystem, but you're also hearing things like new KPIs like time to first token.
Yes.
You're also thinking about agent to agent transactions. How can this agent discover other agents to transact with? How do you authenticate it? How do you secure it? How do you transact, and how do you deliver? All of these things are very different ways of thinking, but they're all built in a lot of ways on what we've done with network as a service, right? So we're not reinventing our environments. We're building on layers of managed service, network as a service, and now moving into network as a service for AI.
So you launched a product, it's called Verizon AI Connect, is that correct?
We did. So we launched Verizon AI Connect, and it's our strategy, which is a 4-pronged approach to really reimagine our existing assets that we've invested billions of dollars in over many, many years to put to play for the new AI economy. And there's 4 commercial plays that we set up that do all work together. The first is, how do we tap into all the space and power that we have and retrofit our network facilities and data centers to support distributed AI factories? And as we move away from TDM, it's opening up a lot of space and power. And we have these tremendous relationships with the utilities in all the local jurisdictions that we work. And so having that localized space and power available is one option. The second one is we never really played in dark fiber before. About 18 months ago, we opened up what was our one fiber build out, which we did about 5-6 years ago, which over 70 plus metro cities, we invested billions of dollars into fiber in the city. We primarily used it to support our wireless macro network, but there is a ton of excess capacity that we opened up for dark fiber, and we're doing the same on our long haul networks. As we have to go upgrade our networks, we're pulling additional conduit and fiber through to create the high capacity superhighway for both hyperscalers and the neo cloud providers who are infrastructure disadvantaged compared to the hyperscalers. The third play is what we're doing with optical wave. So as customers start moving away from packet to optical, wave services 100 gig to 400 gig, 800 gig and beyond for our enterprise and public sector customers are really important. And then the last piece, which I think is the most important that brings it all together, is the adaptive network fabric. This is how we cloudify the telco experience and drive service orchestration based on intent, not just on bits and bytes. And this is where alliances like Amplify and TMF Forum and others are really going to come into play because it allows us to digitally interact with our customers in a very different way, and pull all the pieces together. So now you have you have your network capabilities, you have your distributed edge compute, because it's not just about providing faster networks, it's about intelligent proximity. It's about monetizing relevance over simply bandwidth.
But I think what's been in the past, we've seen everybody do their own APIs in their own ways. And as we talked about, you doing a strategy now to get rid of this, but all I see is everybody has their own APIs and they say, well, I got APIs, connect to me. And we have this massive spaghetti of APIs everywhere. And at Amplify, we've been trying to standardize only in a certain area, we call it the East-West, the ecosystem side. And we believe TM Forum is well positioned to standardize, and they have been inside your provider's network. We call it the North-South. How do you see this coming together? Do you think that the ecosystem has to come together in a standard way like every other HDMI industry, Wi-Fi industries? We have to have interoperability. If we don't have interoperability across this automation plane in a standard way, then we're going to have a complete mess because no one knows how to talk to each other without building yet another API.
Yeah, the spaghetti proprietary mess makes you mad, right? I mean, it's frustrating when you see it. And I think it comes down to standardization, and interoperability is the only way to really scale, right? And when you think about agent to agent transactions, agents will know no network boundaries, right? I think right now we're operating this environment where we feel we can kind of sandbox networks, and we want to do a lock-in for our customers because we have this type of network, et cetera. But the reality is that we need to open up our networks to create a global fabric that allows global transactions to happen. My feeling is it's going to happen whether we want it to or not. And for us at Verizon, we're really looking at how do we standardize on like TMF and Amplify and get away from all of these bespoke APIs that have been stood up in the past. And I think the steps that we're taking within Verizon Business is a first step, but I know there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think driving adoption, industry-wide adoption, is really about educating the service providers and the broader ecosystem. It's not just the service, it's the whole supply chain, right? The AI supply chain, digital supply chain. And I think organizations like Amplify do a fantastic job of doing that, and events like this is a key opportunity to bring more into the tent.
So do you believe actually that to be part of the AI economy, to support the AI workloads, do you believe you have to build an on-demand supply chain? Do you believe you can do it on your own, or you're going to have supply chains that have to be on-demand, frictionless, move very fast, and not the months that we used to seeing between providers?
I can't envision a Verizon salesperson being comfortable with an agent calling them up asking for something. It is going to be a digital transaction. We're going to have to open up our catalog. We're going to need to be very specific in the type of API strategy that we want to do. How do we extend it to a broad community, to people that aren't traditional buyers of these services, so that they can consume and scale? Because again, it goes back to scale, right? If you limit the population of buyers that can transact with you, you're not going to achieve the outcomes that you want. So we need to figure out, like, how do we open up that opportunity and create a true world-class digital experience that transactions can take place seamlessly.
And I think, to be honest with you, everybody wins because everybody's going to be part of this AI ecosystem. It's not going to be just the models and the frontier models like OpenAI and Gemini that will win. Everybody has to play a role in this, as we talked about. So how do you see this idea of a standard model working? Do you see, of course, Amplify is working in one way, you got Chimera that's working programmable, the programmable networks through network APIs, they call them. You've got TM Forum that's integrating within all your stack, but many providers I talk to don't even know how to get on this automation journey. And for them, I tell them, you cannot be in this AI journey, the AI infrastructure, if you're not automated, but they can't figure out how to get there. So we're trying to help them with standards, but it's more than standard.
It's more than standards, and I think it requires you to take a step back and look at your entire OSS and BSS strategy, look at your API strategy. And we've been on this journey, as I mentioned, it's a progression, and like the work that we're doing on our managed services to upgrade from internal proprietary systems and tools and integrate ServiceNow is an example of how we're digitally interlocking with our customers in the way that they want us to meet them in the marketplace versus how we met them in the past. The work that our wholesale team is doing and what we've done to fully certify the MEF-CECP switched E-line for ordering is an example. Our Access E-line traction with Amplify Dolly for Access E-line ordering platform. It's not just proof of concept. It's actively being used by our largest customers to automate Verizon telco as well as our TLS Ethernet services. And those are just a few examples of what we've done. And then, having transparency on standards, like really playing by the rules. Like, when we were working on our Ella internet product, Amplify paused some of the certifications to revamp the process. And rather than building a quick custom workaround, we paused as well. We waited, and then we aligned with the new standards because standards only work if you stick to them, right? And so all the complementary APIs around quoting, availability, repair, we look at adhering strictly to TM Forum standards as well. And I think that's a disciplined approach that we have to take. And I believe that creating that strategic control point is really also a check, right? That can we look in the mirror and say that we're living up to the standards that we set, or are we letting rogue teams kind of make their own bespoke APIs that then you get in that spaghetti proprietary situation that you don't want to be in?
Right, and more vendors support the standards, then more every gets deployed, more adoption. And I think a lot of people want to do like invented year, right? And that's kind of the mindset of an engineer by just definition. And it's really, of course you can always invent it better, but we have to at least get to a baseline of how we're going to talk together. And APIs has to be interoperable, and because they're machine to machine. And now you're seeing these APIs transcend into agents that are using these APIs. And then I think as I said in the Lisbon conference, that I think even APIs will be agent-agent communication.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to be a very incredible journey. And even those agents have to understand standard data models of your different services, carry Ethernet, wavelengths, even cybersecurity, and so on. So look, just we're wrapping it up here, and it's been an incredible event in Lisbon. It's called the Future of NAS for Agentic AI. What's your perception? How do you see these open standards and the autonomous AI agents all going to work together? Do you see that what we've been talking about really is going to make the difference between all the members and the operators to come together to create this cohesive ecosystem, this on-demand?
Yeah, I think it's been an incredible event. I've learned a lot. I think you have really opened the eyes of the members and also the board on not only the art of the possible, but the how, right? We all know the what. We know what's happening right now. Like we talked about the arms race and just the how every frontier model that's coming up is kind of leapfrogging the other, and how the race for talent is, expensive and hard to find, and how critical AI infrastructure is. But I think people are looking for the how. Like how do we actually get to an environment where we can support agentic agent-to-agent transactions? And you've laid out a great blueprint for the how. And I think the approach with NAS for AI and the federation approach is a great way to start, creating a community of an alliance, right? And that's really how we need to look at it. And I love how you equated the opportunity for service providers in the same way that you did with airlines or Uber. And it's about matching the buyer's intent with the seller's capabilities and doing it in a digital marketplace that happens without having to have all of the human in the loop for every step of the way. That adds time. And I've said this in many sales roles that I've led over the years, is time kills all deals, right? And that's never going to be truer than in the future that we're all running into right now. Is the speed of transaction is what's going to win deals. And you can't do that if we operate in the old way. So we have to really embrace where the future is going. And I think the how that has been outlined by the Amplify team is something very exciting, and people should really tune into it and see how they can play a role in joining the alliance.
Well, thank you, Scott. Again, thank you for pursuing the board, being such a great vocal voice, and your insights and your wisdom. And I think you're spot on, and I think there's massive opportunities for all the members, and it's members in TM Forums, members in Amplify, members in Linux Foundation. We all have a role to play, but we really have to unify. And I think what we laid out here was basically our role at Amplify is to create that on-demand supply chain. We're not going to try to automate inside the provider's network. That TM Forum will do a really good job. And I think that synergy between all of us can really enable this. And I think you elegantly put it, it's all about time. If you cannot get there in a timely manner, then you're going to lose the deal. And we don't want our members to lose deals, right? So that's critical. So well said, and thank you for joining us on this episode.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Executives at the Edge, brought to you by Amplify. Be sure to follow, share, and leave a review. Catch every episode on your favorite platform or visit us at amplify.net.